there's that. Shoot, skidoodles. Well, I guess we'll just have to do it this way. Sorry, folks. Just trying to get myself squared away before we actually get into it. Come on. Alright. Hop in on this. Do that. That way I do have chat. Sorry, still working on minor controls on some things to make sure I actually can interact with you guys properly. I'm a little surprised that... Let's see. Okay. Okay. Sorry, it had a chat box, and suddenly I'm not seeing that. So something's a little screwy. Okay. Well, at the moment that is surpassing my capacity to troubleshoot, and I'm more interested in using what time I do have today to go ahead and start an actual stream. So, just a moment. Hello everybody, I am Tank the Elder. This is my shared gaming channel with my wife, Alora Star. And yeah, so obviously I'm not bringing you guys in, not bringing YouTube in at the very beginning. We've already established a few things, and I'm kind of in the middle of establishing even more things for all of this. In addition to building the Star Destroyer, I have decided that what we are going to do with this world is eventually build it up in all of the things that I want to build. By that, what I'm talking about is I want to, like, there will be a part of this world that I will eventually dedicate to, like, doing some dwarven fantasy stuff, because, you know, I'm kind of dwarfish myself. A little tall, but, you know, we don't let small details like that get in the way of, you know, a good fantasy dwarf. So, but yeah, the biggest build for a while is going to be continuing to fill in the Star Destroyer. It came to me one day that I just wanted to, like, I wanted to have a project that would keep me in Minecraft for a good long while. And for whatever reason, my crazy brain, and I fully own that it is my crazy brain, decided that building a more or less to scale Star Destroyer was totally the ticket that was going to get me to keep on doing things and pushing what I know about how to use Minecraft. Because excuse me, I'm also working on a cold that does not seem to want to go away very quickly. But with this, it's the... Here's a thing that should keep me interested for a good chunk of things. And then as I do go, you know what, I'm kind of getting sick of this. Building up the world around the Star Destroyer. Like, actually, that's part of what I'm doing right now, is the Star Destroyer, for now, is too big of a project. Which is not to say I'm not working on it, but I... to give you a sense of scale, now I will go and show you guys the maps that I have put together. I don't have the whole thing covered by maps yet, but what I do have is maps on the major X and Z axes for what I have already constructed. And because of that, I am pretty excited to have defined the the only other major structure that I now need to get measurements and convert them to blocks to figure out is going to be the actual command tower. So, and one of the things that I have been bemoaning about building a Star Destroyer is one of the design choices made for Star Wars is there are very few completely perpendicular surfaces. There's very little of the ship design where everything meets at right angles. And when they do have that, there's usually things that are breaking them up and just making all kinds of fun little divots and changes. And, you know, if you go back and look at the movies, like, you can just see it everywhere. They do not... It was something about how George envisioned this, that surfaces meeting at 90-degree angles is just not something he cared for in the designs, which is fine. That it is a choice, and I think looking at the films and everything, it gives so much of the feel of this was not designed by the humans of Earth, for all that we know that it was. Actually, I should be doing that first. Silly tank. But, like, if you look at how we build our spacecraft, you know, there's certain choices that we make. They're typically made based on a mixture of our understanding of aerodynamics and our understanding of manufacturing techniques. And most of what we build, because you're actually going to end up with wasted space. So, like, looking at what's here, you soon quickly realize, like, you actually have some significantly wasted space where if you actually took all of this straight out and up, and then brought this all the way straight across and down, you'd have like 40% more spaceship. It'd look a lot uglier than what a Star Destroyer does. But that's okay. So it's that kind of decision making that went into it that just makes it a bit harder to use a game where the world is constructed entirely from objects meeting at right angles to actually build this thing. And I will, when I run this stone back to the Star Destroyer, I will show you guys the kinds of crazy decisions I've had to make. So, like, you can see here this line and the back line there. It's describing an angle in three-dimensional space. And it was not the easiest thing to plan out just exactly what it was going to be. And in fact, one of the things that we'll see, so the group of blocks that I have my cursor on and the way that they go up there is how I described simply primarily on the y-axis angle. And so I figured out what I thought it should be on this angle, the closest one to us, what I thought it ought to be, and then I replicated it over on this far side, and what I've done here is I'm going back to I'm going back in and redesigning, not really redesigning, but adding that extra layer in so that I have this angle as well as this angle defined so that I can break up the sections needed to fill in the back part of the ship in a way that I can go, okay, if I can fill in X, Y, and Z here, we're in really good shape. If I can fill in, these things, that's a good way to keep it from becoming just an insane amount of it keeps it from excuse me, it saves it from being such a monumental task to fill in that plane of the starship. So, and yeah, as I said, one of the things that will eventually come up is I'm not necessarily going to, this is not going to just be Star Wars builds. I want some of what I build nearby to be reminiscent of Star Wars. I am a big enough fan of Star Wars that it feels like a suitable tribute, as far as I'm concerned, to a bunch of movies that have had a relatively large impact on my life. To do something like this, and because of that, like I said, I've just decided that's what I'm going to do. So closer in, things are going to be a bit more Star Wars inspired, but I have discovered, because I reached a point this past week where I decided I am tired of seeing the same terrain, the same building project, the same resource gathering, what have you. I need a break from all of that. I'm going to go look for biomes I haven't found yet. And it turns out that so far, to the north, east, and south of where I have chosen to build, it is pretty much just variations on forest, plains, hills, and then into cold biomes. Which, okay, that's kind of nice, but there are some things that I'm looking for, because I think one of my first building builds is going to be inspired by parts of Naboo, parts of the capital city and whatnot. I don't think I'm necessarily going to try and put the palace in here. I don't think in my own headcanon for this world that this is Naboo. I'm thinking at best that it was some folks from Naboo who decided to build things like they would have back home because they really like that style, and they are here invested in the shipyard, so they don't get a chance to go back very often. But if you remember from Phantom Menace, a lot of Naboo is basically like the structures that I guess they call them Nubians, which, knowing world history the way I do, is kind of funny. But basically what I'm trying to get to is, like, it's going to have that, like, they're made from brick, they're made from things that are not pseudo metal. Like, if you think about, like, Cloud City, yes, it's somewhat rustish colored, but it is really just a giant steel city. And many of the places that you go to, like, you either have, this is the ruins of society, like the pyramids that are in the jungle around Yavin for the first battle of the Death Star. The battle with the first Death Star, however you want to say it. A New Hope. At the end of A New Hope. That place. So, like, there's clearly implications of, like, most civilizations probably had a like, metal fabrication style, but, like, you know, you look into what other places that they end up in, like you have the sand igloos from Tatooine, which there might be a place around here for those too, because it's a relatively efficient way to create, like, worker space. But yeah, there's just not a huge amount of, like, you either have, like, really, really rustic, old, like, the kinds of things we would expect in, you know, ancient Athens, or, you know, like, the old ziggurats, all that kind of thing. It's really old architectural things that they've done. Or they're the hyper new, constructed with curve Coruscant, and, you know, honestly, even especially after the special editions where they really opened up Cloud City to, you know, just the broader cityscapes behind the actors as they're moving, which, that's a really fun one for me because I am too young to have seen any of the original trilogy in theater. But I am old enough to have seen all of them before even like, I have seen the original video. I've watched the original VHS versions. Like, that was how I was introduced to Star Wars. And so, like, I remember seeing Bespin without the big skylight, or the big windows behind them as they're running through, like you have after the special edition came out. Which is just a very interesting place to be for something that's such a cultural icon. Okay, I think we are swapping to Smashy Smash. Alright, so let's go take a little bit closer look at some of the things that I've been jabbering about. So, alright. We're going to see. So, clearly, at this point, I have put a lot of detailing into the stern of the Star Destroyer. A lot of that has to do with the fact that, quite honestly, it's one of the more complex portions to build from. It is also where the largest... the Star Destroyer is its largest in its back, like, third. Because you have a width that works out to be 505 blocks wide. It is something like 200 and... let me check. Let's quote him right. So from the very bottom of the sea, it is 263 blocks tall, and it is 900 blocks long. And for the sheer sake of getting anything accomplished and having something that looks even vaguely Star Destroyer shaped, I went ahead and skipped the... Alright, so let's... For all that I'm going to get out and... run around the Star Destroyer. Because what I've decided is the outer skin is going to be a lot of stone with andesite for subtle texturing, and then I'm going to find some areas that I do more than that. Because very few of the... For something this big, the cobblestone, like, you just look at that gets to be so busy with so much on top of it. Like when it's just this vast spread of it, that kind of gets overwhelming that way. Where, because the stone texturing, now granted, I'm running Faithful 64x64 as my texture pack. Like, if you really look, you can catch where things end, but this would be too broken up with the smooth stone. It'd be too much texture in a different way than the cobblestone is too much texture. And so I'm like, no, I don't want to do it that way. I might just toss this dirt, because I have so many... Alright, I have... So one of the things that I haven't... Oh, wow, I've been here long enough. Skelly's getting diamond armor, huh? That's a fur... Okay, I'm curious. I've worked for a few days. 375 days so far. So, just to give you an idea how old this world is. And the vast majority of that has not been AFKing. I don't really have a good way to do that. So, so down here's what I'm considering my farming level. That's going to be where, more than likely, that's where we'll start when I actually get into doing more stuff with villagers, to more explicitly get specific things like the various trades and what have you, to help with building. It'll probably get constructed down there. Now, I might, because of course the Star Destroyer is going to have a very large crew to man all of the different stations that need to be taken care of. I might find ways of putting those in a different area, but I'm kind of thinking this water level floor, which is going to be fairly large, because you can see the main portion of it breaks the surface out there, and then it's kind of over in here. We'll have to see when I get done tiling everything exactly where it ends up that I pull it off from, but I do want to eventually cover that in. So I like this staircase. I've messed around with it some. It still needs some work to really get it squared away, but it helped me get through this central area for the major blocks. One of the projects I know I need to start getting to will be building more of these, because this takes you up. It just gives us a little bit better of a view. Okay, so this floor and the floor that the portal is on are going to end up, like, no contest, these are going to be the two largest decks in the whole thing. They're the decks that are on the widest point here and the widest point of the length of the ship as well. And so they're just gonna be big. Like I said, I still need to come in here and sort out where the bridge elements that stick out are actually going to go, and get that wireframed in as well. It took me 3 tries to get the angle right for the outer angle of the Star Destroyer. But yeah, I intend to have essentially express turbo lifts to each portion of the Star Destroyer. So, but yeah, let's come take a look-see here. Now, this is not actually updated, so let's knock these two off. Let's go update them, because they deserve it. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to do right now is wireframe a lot of the big sections, so doing stuff like I have down here to get things filled in. It keeps me from going insane, because those are basically only 7 blocks wide. I'm making everything too tall with slabs for at least a bit of mob proofing. I haven't been obsessive about it. I'm only playing in normal because the challenge here is not a, hey, let's play hardcore, and if I die, fuck it, I'm throwing this all away. There we go. Or near enough, yep. So, boom. So, and yep, just for some reference, you see the path back here. Oh boy. Okay. That heads back. My very first beginning stuff was in there. Just kind of worked out. Now, the other thing you can see here is I'm with the slabs. I'm basically making it like this is a thicker area because this is armor. It's a battleship. Giant one. Which is why we're okay. It's 12, 20. And that difference is let's stay on here. Come on now. Not that bad at this. There we go. That got updated too now. But yeah, I'm trying to get things so that I can build in chunks. And again, this is, the slabs are more about mob proofing, because I don't want to for as much as there's going to be light all over this thing, I do want to have the capacity to light it how I want, not just you have to do this because otherwise you're going to get zombies all over your stuff. The engines are something that I constructed in creative mode for the simple expediency of cones are not exactly the most effective. It's not terribly easy to build an appropriate it's not very effective to do a good scaffolding around all that, especially when you're building from nothing there. I know there are people who do it, and I applaud them. I get to play this maybe 10 hours a week on average. I don't have the time for something that complex to sit down and figure out the metrics of going, oh, okay, this needs to be... Okay, yeah. There we go. Got that all updated. Let's pop you up. Get you updated too, since we got some new things in here. It won't be a ton, but it's more than there was. Okay. So, now, those of you wondering, sure, some of you recognize the iron farm for what it was. Boop. I don't think there's too much to update on this one. Can maybe run further back. But yeah, there we go. So the iron farm, for all that, I need to go check and see if I have any librarians yet. I'm going to update to make it more efficient after a time. It is modeled after Brian MC's iron farm / trading area. So, but yeah, you can see here as I'm running out the inclusion of things. Okay, so I just caught... So there is an ocean monument down there. And I'm not sure... So I did build a farm for that, and I am terribly sorry to the gentleman who put that up. I don't remember your name. Because basically when it comes to farms, like, I have no idea how to set about getting them put together, so I'm just using other people's stuff to get that figured out. But I want to make the Guardian farm more efficient. I don't know precisely how I'm going to go about that. So, okay. Out. Swoosh. So, but I do remember this was a Brian MC video that I did. He does it where there is basically a room similar to this on all four corners of this, in addition to the area for the iron golems upstairs. So I've been on here for some time today, and I think these chunks have stayed loaded, most of it. So yeah, but you can see, like, yes, I'm getting iron and roses, But I'm not going crazy, and I'm pretty sure a lot of that is I don't have enough scared villagers creating enough demand for enough iron golems to really push this system to its maximum capacity. But for now, it's working. It's getting me the iron I need, and I will, like I said, I will make it more efficient once I can define how large this floor is going to be. That'll give me a bit more opportunity to plan out, like, okay, I like to have farm plots for pretty much all of the food. The big question then becomes, like, I like the efficiency. I love the look of this farm. This was an entirely me-inspired decoration. Originally, this actually connected through. So it was 12 and 12. And then I'm like, that doesn't feel like it's enough. So I redid it to be the 36 that it is now. And I like the look of both of those. And for some of the things that I don't need tons of, like beetroot, mostly because oh man, if only I had a hoe on me. The one thing, and that for as long as I've actually had this built, it's the first time I've done that. So, like to get the nether wart someplace where they're not just sitting there like that, because it's kind of yuck. I'm still not sure on the cows, how I want to deal with them as we go along. I've got lots and lots of steak already. It's one of the easier things to do. I know it's not the most saturated food, but I'm not super worried about how saturated the food is. It's for me, it's a matter of, okay, how efficiently can I get what I need? Okay, let's do that. Okay, you guys all need to come upstairs. Alright. That's just silly. Alright. Now I do have an express, but it goes from downstairs all the way up to here, and so I'd have to go down quite a few levels just to come back up. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. There's my drippy stone. Let's get rid of that for now. Do that and that. Come back over here. Got an infinite water source there. And infinite lava, or as I like to say, trash goes here. Contents are spicy. Which I probably... There we go. So, but yeah, I have a little lava up there. I'm still trying to decide, because everybody's got their, well, is lava more efficient, or is it more efficient to do other things, other ways? How do you want your super smelter? That kind of thing. Which, that is something that I do need to sort out, because as much as I like... I didn't load anything up. Well, that's just silly. Come here, you guys. Okay, I only got 3, and let's grab a copper. So, I am disappointed. I get it. But it makes, to me, it makes them feel less useful that we can't put anything except for metal into the blast furnace. So, I think, aside from the one that I have here, blast furnaces, as far as I'm concerned, are pretty much just... those are going to be building blocks and nothing else. So... now you can see I'm slowly building up my blocks of iron because I want to do the interior of this in a brighter set of colors than the grays that we get with cobblestone and stone and andesite and all of that. Because in the logic of building an engine, you're not going to want something that is as susceptible to heat to be your engine housing as you have for the rest of your ship. Because, for one, you're probably then going to be... let me see if we can do this, because this is part of it. Oh, you dropped it that far, huh? Well, I guess I can go show you guys my blaze spawner farm, or my blaze farm. It's an abortive attempt for the simple fact that I didn't realize... because of how Blaze behave. So one of the super important things about the Nether for me in this game, so that is there at the back of the ship. That is the front of the ship over there. No, you don't. You don't see nothing, sir. Mostly because I'm not sure if I actually have any arrows to take him out. So, I will probably have, once I get more established towards the center of the Star Destroyer, where the hangar is, I will probably put another portal in so that I can leap between all of that quicker. Because again, this sucker is 900 blocks long. It takes the better part of a day just to run out there. And that's fine, but if I can pop into the Nether and in a minute be out there... well, when you're, like I said, when you're doing this like 20 to 30 hours maybe every week or 2 weeks. Ow. Go away. So now the big mistake that I did is I should have this emptying just straight down below, and I don't. I have a more complicated system, and honestly I think it screws up the efficiency that it requires. So, alright, so a little bit will go to that. I can't mend you yet. Honestly, I think we're gonna save all of that. We're just gonna kill everything, so... I think we're just going to go straight for levels, not worrying about mending the other stuff, because most of my other things are not as problematic. But I have decided at this point, so I just enchanted this the other day, and it has the efficiency 4 on it. I did this a while back, and... now that I've had enough things that have enough picks that have efficiency 4, I'm like, I want more. And so, since there's no good reason not to, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do, instead of cheating in yet another book of mending, which that's how all of my mendings have been. I know some librarian might have it for me, and ideally I will get one of those eventually. But since I'm not really spending tons of time down at diamond level caving, because I don't want that much deep slate, because it's not really like, there'll be places that I use it. In fact, the back of the turbo lifts is deep slate, but I don't use it that much. Okay, so we're gonna lose some of this to my armor, because I have mending on all of that too, so I don't have to keep burning through all that. And I'm trying to keep this semi-interesting for all that. I probably should just stay here for, an hour and then do it. But it's the reason why AFK farming is just not good for me, because if I'm not going to be here actively doing something, why do I have the game open? So, but yeah, I'm working on getting some things done. Like I said, we'll get this leveled up, we'll combine that, and then we'll have a really good Silk Touch pick. Check. How did that become an efficiency 5? I don't think I had added anything that would do that, so. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having more things to keep building, more decisions to make, and it just feels ridiculous how quickly I eat through, thousands of blocks of stone. That is something we might... Oh, it's going to pause the game, isn't it? I was going to say... Okay, well, I still want to look and see. So, I have mined about 80,000 of them. What is that? Picked up. So... That's because some of these are very fascinating to see. Yeah. So this was picked up and times used. So yeah, that's how much has gone into the Star Destroyer so far. And then if you add to that, there's another almost 18,500 slabs that I've used. Just building out what I have built of the floor. That's quite a bit. So let's get this going, because I'm not patient. So fortunately, I only need 5 more levels, but even that's going to be, to me, it's going to feel an awful lot like pulling teeth. Plus, then I probably should leave enough blaze that once I've combined things, I also can then use mending and heal everything up. But yeah, I've been having so much fun with it, and one of the things I will warn you, do not come to me if you want to know about Redstone. I do not know more than some of the extreme basics. And like, if I had doors that I had to be super concerned about, like if I was really worried about this one, I would go ahead and put a plate in there. But this is technically, so those of you who know your placements well, this is actually closed, and that is opened because of how I put it down. And sometimes I come in here to do this just because it gets so stinking loud. Alright, so let's let the press get in there a little bit harder. More of them trapped further down. I guess the one thing about the blaze, and I have not yet found a good way to make potions of harming where I can just throw that on them and be done with it. Things with the entity boxes being a problem. So, like I said, considering the fact that this was a fly-in, figure-it-out with kind of minimal help from the internet at this point, I don't think it turned out something that's awful, because it doesn't take me super long to pick levels up. But because I didn't leave myself close enough on the bottom, I can't just sit here and like smack them as they drop down. Let's do that so we get more of you dropping in here. So, alright. I need a little bit more. I have seen some folks with incredible, and the big problem is, like, if you caught note of where I have the glowstone, that was another blaze spawner. I was hoping that it was close enough to be able to do a double, just because it would make this so much easier. But yeah, I'm trying to do what I can. It's not super amazing, but you know what? It does get the job done. Get you. Okay, so we're going to do that. Over here. Actually, what I want to do is that. So it's not going to take too long, but let's throw that in here. Come here, use. So we'll just stand back, because as you can see in the spawner, I'm far enough away that it's not producing any new ones, but I'm going to try and let what has spawned filtered in here so I can smack them and get those juicy orbs. So. And I'm trying to decide if it's worth trying to break in and replace the upper trapdoor with because that seems to be, for whatever reason, that does actually seem to be preventing them from escaping back into the system. But it does also slow things down, because as they're pressing up, they'll press against it as they're moving forward. think that's why fence gates are supposed to be a little bit better, because they have the same thing in terms of once you slip down past them, you can't return. Like, you can't regain the height that you had. And so, but it won't hold them up the way that the trapdoor is. So, but no, I think next time, understanding more about what's going on here, I think next time we'll just build the we'll just build it to drop them straight down a chute and not worry about lava. A complex lava flow system for it. I am trying to decide if that means I'm doing that with this, or if I'm going to, because if so, I will probably have to drop into creative, build what I know I need to build, and then drop back out. And even then, it's still going to be spawning so many of these, and I feel like doing that ends up violating I'm trying to do most of this in survival. I know I'm not getting everything, but I'm trying not to make it a like, well, we'll just go into creative for this. Because if I'm doing that, I might as well just go into creative. And if I'm just going into creative, I might as well just build the Star Destroyer and forget about trying to figure out resource collection and other things like that make Minecraft a little easier / harder. Come on, boys. Again, not super amazing, but that's how long I've used it. And considering the fact that I don't have a looting sword, it's not bad. So actually, let's go back to my more normal arrangement there. Yeah, I probably should just chop that out. No, it doesn't. So every couple of times I come through, I'm like, wait, I didn't leave anything important in there, did I? No, surely not. No. So, but the other thought I have would be work on that spawner and build a drop, the more simplified drop system there. Since I've got 2 of them at this point, I may do that, and if I do, we'll probably end up moving to that, because it is more likely to end up being the one I go, that's actually the simplest way to get some things. Now, while I'm in the Nether, I don't know what I'm building with the Blackstone to make it worth filling more boxes with that just now. So, one of the things that I'm going to do with the Star Destroyer in terms of making it look like it's landed in something of a spaceport at least, will be to behind the engines we're going to have basically some energy deflectors. So if you've ever seen jets taking off on an aircraft carrier, I mean jets. So they didn't necessarily do this in the age of propeller planes, because prop planes don't produce that much energy. But to keep the decks safe as they launch modern aircraft, they have these essentially heat shields that pop up. And so basically I'm going to build some around the back of this. I'm still trying to sit down. I probably need to sit down and just try and sketch it out so that I have a rough idea of what I want to do with it. Because I think part of what I'll end up doing is use it in such a way that I can go, oh, okay, I can do this and it'll work. Like, the idea should be that this is probably like just a little too much engine to deal with, but it does keep anything that gets built behind it safe. And I think I'm going to do some kind of mixture of this is a liquid-cooled system as well as just capable of handling the engines if they decided to test them, or firing the engines up as the Star Destroyer goes to leave. Just to keep the spaceport facilities safe from the engines and the energy that they're putting out to get this, the spacecraft back into the air. One of the other thoughts that I have for something that will be fun to work on when I get further along here is actually going to be deciding, do I want to see if I can find measurements for other spacecraft, and this is the safe, this is the Star Wars area, so there might be some other things, because they've left us the idea of hover platforms that are big enough for ships and starfighters. And by that, all I mean is go back and watch the opening to Attack of the Clones. And so, ships that would be, in terms of relative to human scale, pretty large, but in the scale of something like this, considerably smaller. There's the possibility that I could build some X-Wings sitting on a platform that's hovering around kind of in the spaceport. But the other idea would be okay, maybe there's some other areas where we have a Firefly, and some of those kinds of things. I'm trying to decide if I'm willing to let people ask me to build ships from their favorite shows, or if I just want to keep it to the ships from the shows that I'm interested in, because I can guarantee you I'm going to be considerably more in favor of building, say, a attack capital ship from the gold from SG-1 than I am building, say, the Enterprise, because I'm just not that big of a Star Trek fan. It's not to say that I don't enjoy it. It just, comparatively speaking, I'm much more intrigued by much more intrigued by the craft that are in Stargate because I actually really enjoy the show than I am by the Enterprise, because I'm just not that big a fan of Star Trek. And it's kind of the same question I'm going to have to answer for myself for doing things like Battlestar Galactica and some of the others. Or if I just keep it to the, you know what, I'm only building the stuff that I really enjoy. I know these are other major ships that people like, but this is if you want them built in Minecraft, then you need to go on your world and figure out how you're building them, because that's just not me. And that's not me trying to be a dick about it. Just, this is my Minecraft world, and because of that, I want to fill it with things that I'm interested in. And in fact, I'm more likely to go build a dwarven city than I am the USS Enterprise. Because again, I like the show. The Enterprise itself is not an especially... Let me try and think how to say this. Because it's not a bad design. It is a very sleek product of 60s pop art. Which again, in and of itself, not a bad thing. Like, that's where I don't want people hearing like I'm ragging on it. But the reality is that style of starship, and even just that kind of highly polished, no signs of use spacecraft building is just something that doesn't interest me, in all honesty. I think it is one of the things that certain movies get wrong. So, for instance, if you've looked at pictures from the space shuttle missions, when they look back at the rest of the space shuttle, it's sitting there with, tiles missing because they fell off during launch. Now it's obviously not most of them, because that would compromise the hull too bad, and basically they'd all die on re-entry. But the reality of it is, launching a ship into orbit from Earth is a violent process, and I know when the shuttle rolled out to the launch pad, all of those ceramic plates were in place as they were supposed to be for launch, but the violence of of launch often would dislodge certain portions of the ceramic shell, and that's just part of it. And I think what you see in Star Wars, for all that, like, the Star Destroyers are very, very clean. Like, if you think about, like, all of the Star Destroyer exteriors that you see in Empire Strikes Back, they're very, like, you can tell the difference between them and the Rebel ships just because they are so clean. Their paint jobs are so immaculate. And yet, even with that, there's this sense of, there's some of this that's a little bit dingy. It's not as bad as the Rebels, because the Empire has more resources to put into their maintenance of their ships. But the reality is, once you start using something, like, I don't know how many of you have ever been around, like, brand new lawn equipment, farm equipment, anything like that. Like, it looks very much like special and new out of the box. And it takes maybe 2 or 3 times of use before you get, there's that teeny tiny fractional disconnect or space for oil to get forced through in an area as you run it, because when it was assembled to snug fit at essentially at room temperature. So like, this is one, if you've ever watched them talk about the SR-71, on the ground it leaks fuel like it's going out of style. But that is because they built the SR-71 to take into account that the engine is going to expand as it warms up from use, that even when it is at its flight ceiling, which I don't remember exactly how high it is, I just know it is one of the highest flying man-powered, in terms of there's somebody giving immediate control interface with the airplane. But it's flying up high enough that, they have to take actually bottled oxygen with them, because they can't compress enough, even at the speeds that the SR-71 flew at, to properly ensure that the pilot remained conscious. So there's just some fun things like that that you take into account. And one of the things that I do appreciate about a lot of Star Wars design is you see the X-Wings and some of the other aircraft have that, like, okay, we're taken care of, we're clean, but we're not squeaky clean, we're not brand new clean. And that really does affect, as far as I'm concerned, the impression that world gives you, because that very much ends up feeling like, hey, here's a world that people have inhabited. They've had to come up with solutions for living the same as we have. And you know what? Not all of their, like, for all that, yes, this is space, it's not like everything is this brilliant, brand new, completely fine, spit and polish sort of vessel. No, this is a vessel that has been in use. The hydraulics have leaked. The fuel lines have had issues. All that kind of thing. So, like I said, it's one of the things that I do like about the Star Wars. Like, even with the the most polished, and I would say kind of antithetical to most of the rest of Star Wars designs, the chrome ships from Naboo, like they break those rules of having just these super clean ships, and yet they do things that, like, there's still a hint in a couple of places where they, like, leave hints of, well, they're This is where the astromech died, and so there's a bit of oil and things that let it move inside that got sprayed onto the hull. It's not like they didn't do it for everything, but there's just enough of it to go, okay. There's the fact that this ship ran has an effect on the look of it. And they do that in ways, even with, like, even the Nubian starfighters, and that you get a little bit of discoloration around the laser emitters. There's a little sense of when Anakin fires the... I just want to call him Annie because, my lord. See, and this is something where I will fight with people who say that Phantom Menace was the worst of the prequels. I can forgive a kid being bad at acting, especially when they're being directed by George Lucas, because Lucas is a very good visionary. He has a great sense of the look of a film, but I don't think that he's actually a good director. I think what really carried the performances in the original trilogy, especially for A New Hope, for A New Hope, what carried the acting there was the fact that the actors that he had for those major roles were just that good. And again, I am very much a Star Wars fan, but that doesn't mean that I can't look at it and go, okay, the reason some of these really awful lines actually get pulled off in the original trilogy is because Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill are all phenomenal actors, and they're good at what they do, so they were delivering things, complex lines, goofy lines, lines that were honestly not well written, with the kind of with the capacities that they had as actors that made it feel much better than what we get. And that's where I look between the original trilogy and the prequels. The best thing that the original trilogy had going for it was that he did not actually direct A New Hope or Return of the Jedi. And again, I fully respect the man. I quite enjoy the universe that he opened up with Star Wars. That doesn't mean he's any better of of a director. He's a very good visionary director. In that sense, he stands quite well with Spielberg. But if you want to, like, Spielberg is one of those guys that I go, okay, if you want to know what a great director looks like, look at the stuff Spielberg was doing at the same time that Lucas was doing Star Wars, and you will see a director who knows what they're doing, getting amazing performances from actors that are, that run the gamut from really good to, they got the role, they didn't make the role bad. But it's like they were not, it wasn't like they were special amazing actors. And that's what I mean by Lucas is not a great director. I love the visual world that he came up with. I do like how he shot a lot of things. I like how Star Wars looks. But if you look at the quality of the actors telling the story in the prequel trilogy versus what you get out of Empire, that is the difference in directors. They had and utilized a very, very good director for Empire Strikes Back, and it shows because it is even still one of them. It is, I think most people, it is the one that they said Star Wars was something awesome. Like, if you were to ask them where Star Wars really hit its stride, that's the one I think the majority of fans would point to. And it's because the director took a script that was not incredible, wasn't bad, but it wasn't incredible, and turned out something that became such a cultural icon. And he got the performance out of James Earl Jones for that super chilling, "No, Luke, I am your father." And, like, the only thing that really spoiled it for me was I have the misfortune of having watched the original trilogy out of sequence. I started with the ending and went back to the beginning and then found the middle. Which I think we can all say is probably not the greatest way to do it. Like, it's, if I had the choice, it's not how I would do it now. Okay. Alright. So, family is up. So, I'm going to do this. And then we are going to finish the stream, and I will catch you guys later this week. And yeah, we'll see if we can get any of this kicked off and going. And so I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Most likely you'll find me back here Tuesday at 1:30ish streaming some more. I don't know if I'll be doing more resource gathering, if we'll go ahead and jump in and start doing more building back here. I know I'm not ready to do the engines because I want to do a mixture of smooth stone and iron blocks, and for 3 massive engines this is not going to be anywhere near enough. But yes, at this point I do need to go ahead and sign off. And this is where I probably should have a... let me see. Aha. No, we're not going to be using that one. Oh, those are basically the same thing, huh? What if we do that? Aha! Actually, let's do this. Alright. Sorry, guys. You'd think by now I'd have the setup a little bit better. So, but yes, I am Tank the Elder. This is our YouTube channel, Magic and Mayhem. There should be more. Oh dear. What is this? Sorry, I've got... Gotcha. Okay. That's fair enough. Alright, we're going to close that up. So, but yes, I am Tank the Elder. This is Magic and Mayhem. My wife and I, hopefully this evening, are actually going to do some Magic the Gathering, actually. And We might have that up here in the next few days, I hope, and we'll be able to go from there. But welcome. I look forward to interacting with more of you as we go. And from here, hopefully we will have many adventures as I build a Star Destroyer in Minecraft Survival, because I, Tank the Elder, am insane. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next one.